Welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager. Thank you for joining us. We are very fortunate today to have two great guests. We have a longtime resident and host and co-host and guest on the show, our Deputy City Manager, Rudy Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us, Rudy.
Thank you for having me.
And then we got a brand new guest. We got Mark Williams, our new Airport Manager. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So, Mark, how long have you been here now?
Believe it or not, I came here the day one of COVID.
So you did.
So I'm almost a year now.
I remember that conversation well. Like, Ron, do I come to work? Do we not come to work? And we were still working from home, I think.
Yeah, during my interview, I actually went to Bocce and nobody had masks on or anything. It was a regular day. And then the next time I came.
Wow, the world changed. It did. Well, we're sure glad to have you on board. You're doing some great things. But for those people who haven't met you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got this job and how much airport experience you have?
Well, I've essentially been in the airport since 1975. I went in the military in 75, so I just gave everything away. But yeah, I'm a former military pilot. Was in the Air Force and the Army, and spent a whole lot of my time, all of my time except for 10 years, working for the government at all levels.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Greatly appreciated. And just to clarify, you started in one branch and then went to the great branch, the Army. I mean, was your last stint, and of course we don't need to argue about that, but clearly the Army is the best place to fly helicopters.
Yeah, absolutely is the best place to fly helicopters. That's why I went there.
All right. Well, very good. So have you worked in a civilian airport before? Or you done any kind of work in a civilian airport?
I have. San Antonio, El Paso. Most of my experience has been in operations with the military. Okay,
very good. And then you ran your own company for a little while, or helped with a flight program or something, if I remember correctly?
I did. In 1983, a commander and I started Angel Flight Aviation in San Antonio.
Oh, very nice, very good. Well, we're very fortunate to have you here with your experience. So why Cottonwood? What's nice about our airport? What makes Cottonwood a nice place to have an airport?
Well, the location, the physical location of the airport is fantastic. And if you're looking at it from a pilot's perspective, we have one runway that's almost always straight up and down. The wind is straight up and down the runway. So it's great for training. It's a great location. And we take a lot of air traffic that are essentially alternatives from Flagstaff because of weather. Sedona is pretty much always windy. And then Prescott's very busy, so we get a lot of that traffic as well. So kind of get the best of both worlds. The weather here is just, for some reason, we're in an area where the weather's fantastic for flying.
Well, I've only been here a couple of years now, and I love the area, and so I imagine that the airport, with all the nice weather, other than the snow we had my first winter here, it's been a pretty amazing run. Now, Rudy, you've been with the city 20 plus?
Yep, 20 plus years now. Yeah.
Wow. So what is your take on the airport? Why is it such a great place for an airport? I mean, you've seen it for 20 years, I'm assuming, grow or stay the same? Or what are your thoughts on the airport?
Over the last 20 years, it's actually grown quite a bit. Size-wise, it's basically the same square, same land mass and everything else. However, we've had a lot of businesses that have moved up in our industrial section, and we've had installed some T hangars since then. We've grown a little bit there. We've got more people using the airport. And a lot of it has to do with, I think, the great flying weather we have, and not to mention, of course, all the amenities we have. Besides just the airport, we also have a river nearby and a lot of activities for the area. And it's an easy flight to come into compared to, let's say, other airports that are a little bit more difficult to fly into. So that works out really well. I do want to say that we're real fortunate to have Mark with us. Over the last 20 years, we've run the airport. But it's pretty much, that's all we've done, is basically just run the airport. We've got a lot of issues that we've had to work, that we're working through, and I think the experience that Mark brings to us is going to be a big plus for us in the future, as far as economic development, as far as amenities that we'll have at the airport, and of course just fixing a lot of the issues that we had, and we didn't have the expertise that he brings to the table. So it's a real joy to have him on board nowadays.
Oh, I agree with you. We're very excited, if you can't tell, Mark. So, Mark, tell me a little bit. You've had a few months now, I guess going on 8 or 9 months now. Tell me how the airport is run, because I get questions as city manager periodically about, well, we have you, we have an FBO, we have a commission and council. Can you kind of talk to us about the operation of governance in general?
Sure. So the FAA essentially has control over all the airspace in the United States. But when it gets down to the individual airports, each airport can make its own decisions on a vast number of things. But in our situation in Cottonwood, we have an airport commission who meets and makes recommendations to, and I meet with them regularly, but they make recommendations to the council through meetings between us, the airport manager, and the commission. It goes to city council. City council makes the determinations of, yes or no on those recommendations. There's also an FBO there.
What is an FBO, Mark? I think I threw out those same initials, but what does FBO stand for? What do they do?
It's a fixed base operations is what it stands for, and what they essentially do is they have a set of commercial operations that they run. So they run fuel, they have a hangar and some tie downs, they service people coming and going. It's essentially they'll kill me for this, but it's essentially a really high-end gas station. So,
right.
So, but
we can't run it without them.
The airport cannot run without an FBO. Right. They could, and I think they probably in the past have tried, but it is so beneficial to have the FBO here. It is. They do an amazing job. They attract a ton of traffic, which we like. They pump a lot of fuel. And they're very good at not just attracting people here, but bringing people back, because people will return. And I've heard a number of people saying, "Oh, I just heard that Wiseman was here. That's why we came." So.
No, Wiseman has a great reputation of being FBOs. He runs a couple other airports.
He does. Winslow, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff here. He's looking at Kingman and a couple other places. Wow. So.
Well, we're very lucky and fortunate to have him working with us to make it such a great airport. So he sounds like he handles a lot of the day-to-day operations, like you said, at the airport themselves.
Right.
And then what is your job? What do you do at the airport?
I just watch him.
Yes. No. I knew you were going to say something like that.
So the airport manager essentially manages all of the city's responsibilities at the airport. Period. So the administration, and we do help make decisions with the FBO, whatever we think would be most beneficial between the two of us. We do that, but it's for the airport manager, making sure that the airport's safe, making sure that it runs properly, operations are happening, all of the administrative processes, making sure that the people that hangar at the airport are happy and need what they need. And then I guess the biggest thing is trying to make sure that we plan for the future, what's going on now, how we can improve it in the future. And then, the big one is figuring out how we get funding moving forward to do what we need to do.
Oh, you knew what I was going to ask about. And I was afraid you were going to leave it off, but managing the finances. And by that, I don't mean the finance end of it, the accounting necessarily. What I mean is making sure it's sustainable. I've been told by you and our previous airport manager that FAA really wants us to do what we can to be self-sustaining. And when we come back, we'll talk a little more about the financing. And then I want to talk about some of the issues. It's a great place, the landing, the wind, the air, the sunny skies, the friendly service from our Wiseman. A lot of great reasons to fly here. but there are some negative side effects in some people's opinions. So when we come back from break, I want to talk about the financing, and I want to talk about some of the concerns that we get from our citizens and what we're doing to mitigate those and what we can't do to mitigate those. I think there's a lot of misperceptions out there that maybe we can help clarify today. So when we return, we'll talk some more with Mark Williams and Rudy Rodriguez.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.org.
Welcome back to this edition of Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager, and we have Rudy Rodriguez, our Deputy City Manager, and Mark Williams, our Airport Manager. So when we left before the commercial, we were getting ready to talk about some of the concerns and some of the issues we have to deal with. But before that, I forgot, we had a couple good things going on at the airport. Again, one of your responsibilities is finance. And so it costs money to run an airport. So let's talk about some projects you have coming up that may or may not save us a little money and some of the good operational things that you're doing up there.
Sure. So one of the things that we just finished this week, as a matter of fact, is that we installed a virtual tower. And a virtual tower, well, essentially when we're talking about finance, airports are funded primarily by the FAA, or most are funded primarily by the FAA. And they base their funding on how much traffic they see now, how much traffic they're going to expect to see in the future, what's called a fleet mix, so the different types of aircraft that come and go. And the more accurate you can be with reporting those numbers, the better the FAA seems to be with you. So we just installed a virtual tower, which is a piece of equipment that tracks every approach, landing, takeoff, all the movement on the airport. It also tracks the type of aircraft, which goes into the fleet mix calculation. And that just went active this week, and we're already showing results that we knew were there, but we could not accurately track. So I'm looking forward to, by the end of the year, next year, seeing really how much traffic we have there.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this, and it really hit home when I got a call last week from you, and hope I can share that. We got a call about a concerned citizen about a jet landing, about this loud aircraft landing at our airport. Well, this tower was able to tell us it was our hospital helicopter, our flight.
Guardian Air.
Guardian Air. Clearly, they're not coming and going unless there's a need.
Right.
And God forbid that one of our loved ones were on that airport. Not that we want loud helicopters going on at all times of nights, but the fact that our hospital has access and our residents in the Verde Valley have access to Guardian flight in the time of need is amazing in this small community. So we were able to confirm, you were able to confirm that that's what that loud noise was.
Right.
Which is a lot more consoling if I got to hear noise, knowing that it's someone who needed life emergency care.
Right.
Surely makes a difference. So you talked about financing briefly. Rudy, how does a little bit of the financing, we don't have a lot of time, but how does a little bit of that financing work with the airport?
Well, that's a discussion we were just having about the way it works out, and We actually, it turns out really well, because out of all of the program money that comes through the state and FAA is the 90% of it as grant money. The other 10% is split between ADOT, aviation, and the city of Cottonwood. So we put in only about 5% of the entire project money into something like this. You really, considering the cost to do a lot of the capital projects over at the airport and to run the airport, that's really a really good deal for us. So we don't shy away from those type of grants. Whenever they come up, we try to make sure that we have the funding available. And quite frankly, lately it hasn't been the city's general fund contributing that. The airport itself has been fairly self-sufficient, and they've been accruing their own revenues to be able to fund a lot of these projects. So it doesn't even take away from our tax base. So it works out really well for us.
Another example of that, Mark, is our AWAS. Now, nobody will know what AWAS is, but I'll let you explain. But it's something about tracking weather and those kinds of things.
Yeah. So the AWAS system is it's a weather reporting system, automated weather reporting system and observation system. And in, I believe, July, first week in July, there was a storm, and the AWAS that was at the airport got hit by lightning, and it went down permanently. So this had to be one of the fastest turnarounds for sure that I've ever seen the federal government or the state government do. We requested funding for a new AWAS, and the most upgraded one that we could possibly get here. So that it was about $250,000, $260,000 for a new AWAS. And 90 days later, it had gone through the system of getting approved by ADOT and actually getting the funding here in less than 90 days. And in that process, 90% of it was paid by Arizona, ADOT. We were responsible for 10%, but we managed to get our insurance carrier to cover everything but $1,000. So we essentially got a $260,000 highly advanced weather reporting system for $1,000.
So I don't know about your math, Rudy, but my math says good. I just all good there. And you know, we give a you know, airport manager managing that process, knowing the contacts, knowing the applications, knowing the people to contact at ADOT's very important. Then we have our own people, risk manager, Amanda Wilbur, and our finance department, Kirsten, and all them helping getting all that settled. So a lot of teamwork, but your leadership on that has been greatly appreciated. So clearly it's working. You know, we're getting all the monies we can from the federal government. You know, if I could get most of my city programs paid for by the feds, you know, hey, we'd all be happy. It'd be very good times. But clearly that is not the case. So, there's a lot of good stuff that happens at the airport. Periodically, we do get regularly, I guess would be a fairer statement, get complaints about the noise. So, what is the city or the airport or the commission? What have we been doing to try to mitigate the impact of noise on our community?
Well, first I'll tell you that it is not an uncommon occurrence to have complaints at airports. All of them do. And some of the things that we have done, and just like all the rest of the airports, and working with the FAA on noise contours, we have noise abatement procedures. So those are essentially procedures that we ask pilots to follow to mitigate the noise on the over the residential areas. So we have those procedures. When the AWAS is up, a recording comes on to tell them that. There is a placard at the fuel farm, so if they stop and get fuel, they know. It's in the terminal, and when you're entering the runway at the beginning of the taxiways, we have the same instructions for noise abatement. So we do everything that we can do, because we really don't, as an airport, we don't have any control at all over pilots once their wheels leave the ground. So we would like them to do things, but the only thing we can do is request that they do that. The other thing is that different aircraft have different noise levels, and the older they are, traditionally, the older they are, the louder they are. And it's funny because we have people calling and say, well, can't you ask them just to put mufflers on them? And you know, it's mostly propellers that make the noise. So helicopters, of course, make a little bit more noise too. But the newer the aircraft, and strangely enough, the larger and the more advanced and more powerful, like the jets, are less quiet. We never get a complaint about jet traffic or turbine traffic. So, but we do what we can.
So you talked about all the requests to the pilots to be respectful of our residents. Now this new virtual tower thing, that's going to help us monitor periodically. We can check to, you know, see if catch someone who's not and politely ask them to please follow our rules.
Yeah, correct. And that will work both ways. If we have the ability to track and actually see on the screen a track of where the aircraft is flying, at what altitude is flying, airspeed, if it's descending or climbing, and the entire track around the airport traffic area. And we can actually see this up to 60 miles out. So if someone is consistently either a person or a group of people are consistently doing, you know, things that they shouldn't be doing, flying at altitudes or over residential areas that they shouldn't be, we can let them know. You know, and ask them politely if they cannot do that. But at the same time, just like the incident the other night, after I told the guy, hey, it was Guardian Air, then that was kind of the end of the conversation. He wasn't complaining about the noise anymore. Right. So we will be able to tell if someone complains about an airplane flying low over their house at 7 o'clock in the morning. This system has the ability, if we put the address in, we can see every track, which planes were flying at that time, over how high they were, how low they were, if they were climbing or descending, and what type of aircraft it was. So we're going to be able to tell exactly when there's a complaint, when there's a noise complaint, we'll be able to help the citizens say, this is actually what happened, instead of them speculating, because I can tell you, some airplanes that are 1,000 feet over your house are louder than some that are 300 or 400.
Right. So let's talk about some things we can't do. We actually only have about 3 minutes or so before we go to our next segment. But for example, landing fees. You charge landing fees. Tell them they can't do touch and goes. You know that those are loud noise, or make them go somewhere else, or make them do things. Because I think you started the show off. Once the wheels leave the ground, it's FAA territory.
Right.
Why can't we do some of those things?
Well, there's a very pragmatic reason not to do them. Okay. If we made the determination that we were going to charge a landing fee for all general aviation aircraft, we would have to charge everyone. We can't just say this flight school is going to get charged a landing fee every time they do a touch and go. We'd have to figure out a billing system. We'd have to figure out how to track these people. And I don't think there are any other airports that are charging landing fees for general aviation aircraft, because it dissuades them from coming, and you don't want to do that. I mean, we want them to come here, not just for the economic reasons, but selling fuel. We're right now promoting the wine industry and trying to get people to the airport so that they can do wine tours. So telling them they can come here but have a landing fee, it doesn't make sense. Now, big airports do it to keep smaller airplanes out of the traffic pattern, because if you have nothing but jets, big heavy jets, and you decide you're going to fly a little plane in there, it's disruptive. Sure. Airspeed and everything else. Sedona does it, but they only do it for the larger jets, because it's kind of like a destination. Sedona is a destination airport, so a lot of the bigger jets just go there. So even if they buy fuel, they're still charged some fee. I'm not sure what the fee is, but it does not make economic sense at all. And believe me, we've had people call that say, do you have a landing fee, before they even come.
Wow. So what I find interesting there, and I appreciate you bringing that up, is our city council's made has designated our airport as one of our economic drivers in our strategic plan 2 years ago. Rudy probably remembers that conversation. And so we've started to do things to try to attract businesses there, not just to to fly through our airport, but to stop and enjoy our community in Cottonwood. One of the things that came to mind that you referred to was these wine tours. One of the nice things about having back to the FBO, Mr. Wiseman and his team, is that they brought some vehicles with them. And so now people can land at the airport and have a ride down into Old Town or any other part of our community to have lunch or have hopefully not a glass of wine if they're flying, but enjoy our community and spend more dollars here in our community before they take off. So we really are doing things, AWAS, Virtual Tower, not to steal thunder, the next segment we're going to talk about future plans, but we really are treating it like the economic driver that it's meant to be. Fully self-sustainable so that there's no city general fund dollars going to it, that it's all revenue from, it'll go through the general fund, but it'll come from the airport, whether it be our leases or our visitors or our gas fees or whatever they are, to really have it pay for itself. We don't want to do things that then drive our customers away, so I appreciate that. So before we go, I'm going to leave a little teaser out there, but I think, Mark, on one of the breaks, you told me that we've got an announcement to make.
We do.
So tell us about the program, and then we'll cut away to break.
So we had a contest, we tried to stick to the Verde Valley, but we had a call to artists contest to put what's called a compass rose at the airport. Currently it doesn't have one. We called for designs. It's a 60-foot actual compass rose. 60 foot diameter. Wow. Compass rose that's painted right in front of the terminal. And we got a great deal of response, and we have a winner.
Awesome. So when we come back, we're going to talk about, or we're going to announce, this is exciting news, we're going to announce the winner of the compass rose design and artwork. So again, when we get back, we'll announce the winner.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.org.
Rudy Rodriguez, our Deputy City Manager, has joined us today, and of course Mark Williams, our Airport Manager. So I'm excited about this. This is cool. The Compass Rose, and the winner is?
Bruce Potter.
Bruce Potter, very good. Now, is he from the area?
He was born in Payson, but lives in Cornville.
Okay.
I believe it's Cornville.
Now you're double checking, but he's a local.
He is a local.
Well, we're very excited about that. So at a future council meeting, we'll show the picture and make a more formal presentation, and we'll get moving on that. Very excited about this 60-foot.
It is, and we had a lot of entrants.
Yes.
A lot of entrants. So it was very successful. And when we put voting out, we weren't sure we were going to get a lot of votes, but pretty substantial number of votes too. So a lot of people looked at it.
Very excited. Well, stay tuned to the council agendas, and we'll show the artwork and the presentation at one of our council meetings. So as we begin to wrap up here, what kind of future is in store for the airport here in Cottonwood? What do you got planned for us, Mark?
Well, we submitted, or in the process of submitting, a master plan, and the master plan includes what we would like to have over the next 20 years. We also submit a capital improvement plan, which happens every 5 years. We submit it every year, but it's a 5-year projection of what we'd like to have at the airport. As far as physical facilities, there are some things that we would like to do, and one of those may happen next year. It's been in the plan for a couple years, and now it's due. We are going to extend the taxiway and repave the taxiway, because the taxiway hasn't had its due attention for about 10 years.
Yeah, it's one of those areas I get plenty of complaints about from our local pilots. Right. So good.
And then in the 5-year plan, we also have a couple other things as far as physical conditions. We'd like to improve the weight capacity of the runway. That includes an overlay, about a 4-inch overlay of the runway. And then we would like to, there's a couple other things, we'd like to stretch the runway, which not very much, but there's a golden number of 5,000 feet, and we're at 4,252 now. So it's not that much. It's about 300 feet on each end, and we already have displaced thresholds there, so it's not really going to extend the runway. It's just going to repave it so that we can use it as an actual runway. Because 5,000 feet is, like I said, kind of a magic number that when you're looking in the documentation to go somewhere, if you have a heavier aircraft and know that you need jet fuel, this is the place to go, 5,000 feet. So the taxiway, the runway, and new lighting system for both the taxiway and the runway. We have in the capital improvement plan a heliport. We have a circle on the pad, but it's not an official heliport, so that's not a big deal to get that done. And then we have 17 people, between 17 and 20 people on the waiting list for hangars. So we're in the process right now of working with a contractor to build. We have 13 hangars on the schedule, so we're still going to be short, but
nothing wrong with a little bit of a waiting list.
Yeah, a lot of people like to come to Cottonwood. I mean, it's just a good place to be. So,
and it sounds like there's a lot going on coming up there. So we're about out of time, and I'm going to ask Rudy a question. He's heard this question a couple times before, but Rudy, it has been so this is, I don't know how these shows get timestamped, but this is end of November. It's been a hard year. 2020's been a hard year. Had a lot of things change, even as you mentioned, from when you started. Rudy, just take a minute and talk about what you see ahead for Cottonwood and the good things that you think that are good about this community that you've made your home and raised your kids in. Just spend just a minute on that.
Well, you know, there's a lot of great things going on, even during this 2020 year that's been really tough on a lot of people. We continue to do a lot of great things. You know, our old town is still flourishing. We've still got, we're fortunate to, even though we've got limited space, limited requirement for capacity right now. Our recreation center's open. Our library's open. We continue to do things to keep our economy going. You know, we've been real fortunate that we continue to grow during these tough times. My kids grew up here. They enjoyed the river. That's a big one in Arizona, considering it's desert for the most part. Having a river run right through your community is a big plus. The airport is another big plus, and actually having it run by the city and having the expertise that Mark brings is very big for us. You know, I've mentioned before that we're a full-service community. We run our own fire department, which keeps our property taxes low for our community. So we've got a lot of opportunity for growth in our community. We've got annexations going on. A lot of people wanting to move into the area. The only thing, unfortunately, is that we don't have the building that we wish we could have to help lower our cost of living here. But nonetheless, we've got a lot of great things and a lot of good irons in the fire, and we've got a lot of great things happening. The airport, though, is just one of those great things. But our Parks and Rec department has got programming going on. Our libraries are open. You know, we're making it work in some really tough times. We're looking forward to this finally getting over and getting back to business. And the way I see it, if we've managed to do as much as we have when we have had this trying year, I can just imagine what this group, this team that we have built over the last few years can do when we finally get this place opened up. And I'm looking forward and really excited about it.
Well, as usual, that's why I ended with you. Well said, Rudy. Great to be a part of this team. Mark, I'm glad you're on the team now. I think nothing but bright years ahead for the city of Cottonwood, its citizens, and our community. So this wraps up another edition of Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager.